We are back on Taking Care of Business on Koerner Radio, News Talk 1180, 1230 KGEO, 1410 KERI, and now in New Mexico on 1000 KKIM. Our guest by phone is the author of Living Witnesses, Triumph Over Tragedy and Faces of the Holocaust, Monni Must. And I'm going to mispronounce that name again. Is your name French originally?
No, it's a made-up name that I was, whatever, my mother made it up, and it's just one of those things.
It's a pretty name. There's a story, you probably know Weapons of the Spirit. That story?
Yeah. No, I don't.
Oh, it was written about 25 years ago. It won the. I had the opportunity to interview this gentleman about 20 years ago. It won an Academy Award for Best Documentary. But the gentleman found out when he was an adult that his parents were sheltered in a little town in France by a group of people, and that he was born there, and they saved 5,000 Jewish families in this little town. His parents didn't even tell him about this till he was almost 40. So
well, look at Madeleine Albright.
Similar thing, yeah.
Same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, the reason that I started, that we made this an international book, when I was in California, in the L.A. area, I was interviewing a woman named Marie Kaufman. And when we were talking to Marie, she was telling us about a little town in southern France that had saved her entire family. They were the only Jews there. And she was going back to this town a few months after we had met her originally. And she said, I'm going back to see a couple of the people who saved my family. And I said, oh, my gosh, Marie, we're going to meet you there. And we ended up meeting her in this little town. We flew into Toulouse, and then it's right outside of LB, a little town. And all of a sudden, the name of the town just kind of went out of my head. There was only 200 people in this little town. Starts with an M, and it's gone out of my head. But anyway, it's such a small town that the people in LB, where we were staying, had never even heard of this little town that was 45 minutes away. Anyway, my assistant and I met Marie, and in the town that had saved her, and there were two people there who were still alive, and we ended up photographing her there in this town, and it was just an unbelievable experience. And you really learn the history, you feel what people had, the things that they had experienced. Yeah. And it just took us all over the world. And in every single place, every city that we went to, every country that we went to, we also included a synagogue from every place that we went. And on our way back from the city, or from the town where she was, we were driving down this back road, and we saw a synagogue that had been a synagogue. It was an abandoned building, had a big Jewish star, and no one even knew what it was called, but I ended up photographing this little abandoned building that had been a synagogue and abandoned so many years ago. It was just an amazing experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's incredible. You know, we're going to be running out of time. We've only got you for another 6 or 7 minutes, but we definitely want to have you back to talk about this. Was there any particular story that touched you the most in all these stories?
There is a man in Israel. His name is Yosef Zimmerkorn. And of all the stories that I had listened to, this man, it was not only horrific what he endured, but he didn't speak English, and his daughter was there, who was also a survivor. She was born in a DP camp. She was our interpreter with him. And as we were talking to him, all of a sudden the tears started to come, And he got up, and he went to his bedroom, and he came back with a plastic bag. And he pulled out of this plastic bag a red sweater. His wife, who had died 5 years ago, never knew about this. His daughter never knew about this. Nobody ever knew about this red sweater. And he went on to tell us the story. He had run and escaped to Siberia. And when he was leaving, his sister handed him a red sweater and said, "Joseph, you're going to be cold. Take this sweater with you." His sister never survived, but he kept that red sweater, and he has hidden it for 75 years.
Wow.
And he pulled it out for us to see.
Wow. Our guest by phone is Monni Most, author of Living Witnesses, Triumph Over Tragedy, Faces of the Holocaust.
Moni, you mentioned that this project has changed your life a little bit. It's changed the survivors' lives a little bit. How has it actually changed your life? I mean, you've interviewed all these people and taken portraits of them, and your daughter's written such beautiful words about them. How has it changed your life and her life?
As I had mentioned, the reason that I started this project was when my daughter Maya died. And there was about 2/3 of the way, almost finished with the first book, Faces of the Holocaust, that I had showed up at this woman's house. It was on a really cold spring day in Detroit, rainy, dark, and I said to my assistant Linda before we went in, I said, "Linda, I can't do this today. I can't do this today." She said, "We're already here at this woman's house. Let's just go in and see how it goes." I said, "Okay." We walk in, and the woman says to me, "I'm going to give you 10 minutes. I only want to talk for 10 minutes. I really don't want to do this. Come on in." And I'm thinking to myself, I'm so glad because I can't do this today either. So we sit down, and she starts to talk, and I noticed that there's this beautiful light, soft light coming through the front window, and she had all these glass bottles. And I said to her, I said, "You know what, why don't we do your portrait? Can I move the furniture, and I'm going to photograph you with the light coming in through this window." Her name is Aileen Shiraz. And she said, "Yes, okay." So we're moving the furniture, and as I'm starting to get set up, she says to me, "Look at that portrait on the wall. Do you see that portrait?" And I said, "Yes." She said, "That was my daughter who died." And I said, "Oh, I'm so very sorry." And she said, "Tell me, how did your daughter die?" And I said, "How did you know?" And she said, "Because I know the look."
Oh, boy.
Yeah, and she said, "Would you like to sit down?" We ended up being there for 3 hours.
Wow.
It was the first time I had spoken to a survivor about my daughter Maya. And the two of us just cried and held each other. And when I got up to leave, she turned to me and she said, "I want you to know that you will be able to find joy again." And that's what changed my life, because that has stayed with me. Not only can I find joy again, but it's okay that if I laugh or I am happy one day, I will never forget my daughter. But I also know that that's what these survivors have done, is that they didn't forget their past, but they were able to go on and find a life. And that is what they taught me.
This is such a touching book, and the story is so touching. Again, we've got about a minute left. Tell us again your website and how people can get a hold of this book.
They can go to the website. They can order it. It's called livingwitnesses.net. Or I have actually started a nonprofit. It's called dimeandpenny.org. They can go to that website, dimeandpenny.org, or you can call my studio, 248-977-5140, 248-977-5140. But to see the portraits, go to livingwitnesses.net. And it fills your heart.
Yeah, the experience itself is mind-boggling, but you've done such an incredible job of doing the portraits and the stories next to it, and thank you so much for doing this, and we definitely want to have you back.
Thank you, Marty, Clay. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care now. We'll be back in a moment on Taking Care of Business on Koerner Radio, News Talk 1180.